You're listening to Kokolethu Fopi
on Kaya Bears.
With 12 minutes to go before we hit 6 o'clock, Afropolitans, you have noticed that over the last few weeks, especially following the implementation of the lockdown, several organizations and some independent parties have come to the fore in order to raise capital to assist small and medium enterprises. That's essentially where the pressure point has fallen on, especially given that there's this very strong reliance on economic performance and employment to be created by SMMEs. But beyond that, what else do small and medium-owned enterprises need, and how best can entrepreneurs look to further their collaborations as well as seek some inspiration too? Well, to tell us more about this and so much more that we can cover, we're now joined on the line by a familiar voice to the KFM audience. You might recall we spoke to her last year about the concept of Fentrepreneurs. Sizakele Marutlule, also known as Zam of Marutlule & Co. Such a warm welcome to you and welcome to Kaya Biz.
Thank you, Kuku. Lovely to chat to you again.
It's fantastic to speak to you, and I'm so intrigued by the conversation that you're going to share with us today, because I know that entrepreneurship sits very close to your heart. Not only are you an entrepreneur at heart, but you work with them very closely, and as a result, have a full understanding of the impact that this lockdown is going to have on their businesses.
That is true, and in fact, part of what we've been doing in this time is just challenging ourselves to craft a program that can help entrepreneurs get beyond the dip. Because you'll hear I speak about beyond the dip, because one, as an entrepreneur, you've got to be optimistic that the sun will shine again and it will break through these clouds. So what have we done? We've created a thing called Beyond the Dip, like I've just said. And in this program, we've designed and specifically highlighted 5 key things. So the first one is entrepreneurs are going to have to review their business plans and their business models, right, in this time and beyond this time, because what used to be business as usual is not what we're going to wake up to when life assumes some form of normalcy, right?
Sure.
And the second piece is around regrouping. So how do you gather your troops and how do you learn and lead and lean on them? I think part of the pressure we feel as entrepreneurs and as leaders or women who lead is to come up with the answers on our own. If you have a team around you, this is the time to say, guys and girls and ladies and divas and champions, I have this idea. What do you think? So share the pain of trying to figure it out, because it has to be, the recovery is good, not just for the business, but it's good for the people who are employed in your business. So that would be the second counsel. The third idea is around refining your resources. So take a look at what you can outsource, what you don't necessarily need on a full-time basis, what you can contract on a quarterly basis. So use this time to reflect on how you can refine both your human and financial resources. I mean, I hear a lot of people talk about cutting costs, and costs are often human beings. And It makes me panic. I think that there are interesting ways we can think about working together. So if you have a team of 10, for example, instead of having everyone work full time, is it possible that you could have 10 people work 50% of the time versus 5 people work 100% of the time? So we just need to be a lot smarter and a lot more consultative about keeping as many people as we can employed in this dip and beyond. Then the fourth one is around rekindling your passion, because you started your enterprise with a passion, right? You identified a problem, you wanted to solve something for society. Don't forget why you started, because it's that fire that you're going to have to keep rekindling every day. When you're on that conference call or the Zoom call with your team, start with a reminder of what everybody has joined together to achieve. And then the last element, which we think people should be thinking about, is this idea of not just rewriting your business plan, but rewrite as an RIGHT. So what is how can you right-size your business? How can you right-size your own approach? How can you right-size your relationship? So I'm hoping that these 5 R's, you can see that I like R's and they're bars, will help women who lead to think beautifully and differently about not just how am I going to survive, but how am I going to thrive? Because when entrepreneurs thrive, communities, nations, and countries do the same.
So I love the 5 R's that you've given us, and so much of it really does resonate, I think, not only with entrepreneurs and those who happen to be leaders in organizations, but even us in terms of identifying as individuals who are trying to just reach a certain level of self-mastery. There's one R that you left out that I think a lot of entrepreneurs would complain about, and that's revenue. But that obviously speaks to a different approach that you have in terms of, before seeking the financial assistance, make sure that one has all these other elements and pillars that are in place.
Yeah, and that is true. But the beauty, so you will see that and I guess this is how we always work. We always suggest to entrepreneurs that if you are very clear about the problem you're solving for, the revenue will follow. Mm-hmm. In this case, it is when we talk to you about refining your resources, that also includes your financial resources. So what is the source of your business and where is the leakage in your business? Because this is the time to be truly, truly honest and sincere about that cousin that you hired because your mother told you must, and she's not pulling her weight. Maybe it's time for her to just remain a relative and not necessarily a team member who's not pulling her weight. So you do have to be ruthless about cost, because you make money first by stopping the waste and then by generating new income. And sometimes I think we're too focused on generating new revenue and not necessarily managing the cost of things. So it is an important R, and thank you for flagging it.
Certainly sharing some gems with us here this evening, Afropolitans. If you've just joined us, we are in conversation with the CEO and founder of Marutlule & Co., Sizakele Marutlule, who's commonly known as ZA, giving us some pearls of wisdom in terms of how entrepreneurs can go beyond the dip, a program which is run by Marutlule & Co. ZA, I'm also so inspired by some of the knowledge that you're sharing, and of course these key learnings that entrepreneurs can implement. But I'm also keen to find out, in terms of entrepreneurship and the societal impact that female entrepreneurs look to have in their environment, how new opportunities can be sought when things are actually bleak. Is this usually a prime time in times of difficulty, in times of distress, where it becomes a lot easier to identify certain problems and of course solve for a better social benefit?
You make a valid point. Part of what we now know and understand is that when everyone is running for survival, those who survive and live beyond this moment of confusion are the ones that are going to carry us into the future. So the encouragement here is that if your business is built on solid ground, this is the time to actually reflect on that. So what is your purpose? Why did you do what you are doing and you've been doing for the longest time? If you did it because Google looks interesting and she's her own boss and you wanted to be your own boss, this is going to be a testing time for you, because that may not necessarily be the wave that's going to carry you beyond this moment of challenge. So there is great opportunity. I would encourage entrepreneurs to reach out to one another. This is the time to pick up the phone and ask for help. This is the time to be deliberate about collaborating. The days of competition are over. If you are good at something that I am mediocre at, I'm better off working with you, and together we can deliver and earn more, rather than each one of us trying to compete in our own territories and nobody gets to progress. But another thing, Gugu, that's also important, which also needs to be highlighted, is that we have to support the human who is driving the woman who is in business. So let's not neglect personal care. Let's not neglect setting boundaries. Yes, all of us are working from home, but it doesn't mean that we should be on 24/7. Set boundaries with your team. If you're starting at 9 and knocking off at 6, then adhere to those things, because people have other lives outside of just being contributors to your enterprise.
I love it. Thank you so much for your feedback today, Zah. I'm assuming there might be some entrepreneurs who are keen and eager to listen in and participate. How do they get involved in Beyond the Dip or sourcing more solutions in terms of the 5 R's that you shared?
So they can reach me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm Zah Sizakele, or they can drop me an email on hello@marutlule&co, which is co.com, or a WhatsApp on 066-124-7887. I think together we can do more, and together entrepreneurs can truly help just right-size South Africa when the time comes.
Thank you so much for your feedback here today, reminding us to refine our resources, reestablish our truth, rewrite your strategy as an entrepreneur, rekindle some of those key positions within your organization, and of course, right-sizing or rewriting, right-sizing your organization in terms of people, operations, and of course the skills that you need in order to pull through and develop. Afropolitans, that's where we leave our conversation for today with Sizagele Marutlule. She's the founder and CEO of Marutlule & Co., giving us some gems as to how the organization is leading beyond the dip, a venture for entrepreneurs to participate in and make their way through what has and will potentially be a very tough economic climate for the remainder of 2020. It's been fantastic being with you, Afropolitans. It's such conversations that just leave us feeling so much more inspired and, of course, providing us with some hope, which is probably what we need, especially as we are making our way into a long weekend and productivity looks to resume next week, Tuesday. Keep surviving the remaining days of the lockdown and know that this too shall pass.